Good morning and welcome to the Rangers Review Morning Briefing. It's Friday the 3rd of May. I'm Derek Clark and I'm joined this morning by Chris Jack. How's it going, Chris?
Not too bad, Derek. We are match day -2, I believe they call this in the modern world, so otherwise known as press conference day. So heading up to the training ground later on. It's just the manager that's speaking today. Also a number of players, Butland, Taff and McCausland spoke earlier on in the week at the PFA Awards press conference. So no player for us to chat to at the training ground later on. So just the manager around about 1:30. So as per usual, keep your eyes peeled on Twitter, social media, YouTube, the website, any avenue that you consume your Rangers content via us. Keep your eye on it, and we'll have all the bases covered for you later on.
Yep, as ever. Before we delve into all things Rangers, lots to talk about this morning. Just a quick word for our podcast sponsors, MPH Boilers. You can see the banner on your screen if you're watching us on Facebook, YouTube, and indeed Instagram Live. They've got some wonderful Viessmann boilers on offer. They offer flexible finance options. The first year is service free, and they throw in a free internet controller as well. So if you love your gadgets, do give these guys a call. If your boiler's on its last legs, then the all-important links are in the description below. Right, where should we start? We'll start first of all with news we've seen yesterday. And I think it was the Sun that was reporting Rangers demanding that Dundee reimburse them over the two postponed matches at Dens Park. It says that Rangers have submitted expenses totaling a 5-figure sum. They want costs of the two pre-match stays in St Andrews to be paid for by the Dark Blues, as well as travel costs as well. Dundee were fined, of course, by the SPFL. I think £150,000 fine, £120,000 of it is suspended until the end of next season. But Rangers, it appears, have looking for their cost to be reimbursed. I think they've got every right to do so. Chris, it was an absolute shambles. Let's hope we don't have to experience that again. But I think they're very much well within their rights to ask for money for this.
I think it's just a shame that there's no avenue for the Rangers support to do to be able to do similar and get their money back. You think of the money that fans spent on buses, on train travel, on flights and ferries, on match tickets, on food, everything that goes into following their team home and away, which they do in such huge numbers, both domestically and in terms of European trips as well. There would be a lot of money wasted by a lot of Rangers fans for those two games. Arguably, the third one was a wasted trip as well, because it was fairly rotten once we actually got it on. But we'll gloss over that particular fixture. But I think it's just I think we both spoke about it at the time. It's just it's a shame that the fans were the ones that really missed out. Now the players, it was frustrating for them. Preparation's been disrupted. It wasn't easy for the squad and for the manager, but they got a couple of nights in a nice hotel in St Andrews out of it. Rangers fans taking time off their work and travelling the length and breadth of the country didn't. So hopefully there's some way of fans being able to get something like that back. And hopefully if Rangers do get anything back from Dundee, I don't think I'd be surprised if there's anything within the SPFL or SFA rules about this. I need to go and check up on them. I don't remember any precedents of this type of thing happening before. But hopefully if Rangers do get something, it can either be given on to the fans that made that journey, or perhaps given to the Rangers Charity Foundation, or given to another worthy cause. If it's going to be 6 figures, it's obviously it's a dent out of the Rangers budget, but in the grand scheme of things, with a club and a company with a turnover that and the revenue that we've got, it's not a huge percentage of it. I think it's more about the principle in this case. That Dundee have to have as big a fine and as big a warning as possible, because the whole saga was poor from a Scottish football perspective, but it looked terrible for Dundee. Good to see that they are starting to do some work on the pitch. I saw the story this week that they're going to put some work in on the park as soon as the last game of the season's played. That's good. Hopefully we avoid this situation again. But But it's the fans that I really feel for in this situation, because they're the ones that have really missed out and have been hitting the pocket. So as I say, if Rangers do get anything, whether Dundee cough up or not, if Rangers do get anything, I'd like to think there's some way of reimbursing the fans for their efforts, or I say giving it to the Rangers Charity Foundation, one of their charity partners.
Totally agree. Comment comes in. This sums it up. Matt Gunner says, my mate spent a fortune going up twice from Dumfries, had to stay both times, so nearly 500 quid down. It's these guys who should be reimbursed more than anyone else. So, we'll watch this space with regards to that. Other news you may have seen, of course, we've not entered the transfer window yet, but that's not stopped Rangers being linked with a number of players this week. We had Ben Johnson at the start of the week. We've had the winger that plays in the A-League as well yesterday by the name of Ruben Borges Rodriguez. Fantastic name. He's also been linked. Yesterday, a name was put to me by the name of Dion Sanderson. Centre half. Rangers were previously linked with him. He plays at Birmingham City. He was linked in January of last year when Michael Beale was at the helm. Only joined Birmingham last summer for £2 million, I think it was. He's contracted until the summer of 2027. There are murmurings that he could be Ibrox bound in the summer. He's a nephew, incidentally, of the Olympic javelin legend that is Tessa Sanderson, so certainly good genes in the family. Can't say I've seen much of him, Chris, but a centre-half is certainly an area of the pitch, we've touched on it before, that Rangers will have to strengthen in the summer. He looks at a big strapping lad, 24, 6'2", 6'3". Is this the sort of player that excites you?
We are still 3 weeks from the end of this season. There's still a treble to be won. Not a ball has been kicked in Germany this summer, and the transfer window rumour mill has already kicked off. It's going to be a long old summer until it closes. I think these are the first three names that have come up, or certainly this week. There's going to be scores of them. I think by the time we get to the start of pre-season, you could easily hit 100 names being linked with Rangers. I think it's obvious that Rangers will do a lot of business. It's obvious that Rangers will do a lot of business. I think we've spoken about it briefly in the last couple of weeks about players we'd like to see move on, potential departures in terms of reinvesting in the squad, areas where we think there's definite needs for reinforcements to come in. I don't think you get many people arguing that centre half is not one of those areas. I think there will be movement in that area of the pitch. I think there has to be movement in that area of the pitch. So a centre half is certainly something that I'm looking to see coming into the building. Looking forward to seeing who Rangers go and recruit in that. But I'd be lying if I said I know much about Sanderson or the winger or anybody else that's been like not heard any names. The club are going to keep their cards very, very close to their chest over the course of the summer. And while there's still a league to be won and a treble to be won, they're not going to be commenting at all on transfer rumours. So any links that you see just now are there to be discussed. By all means, we can debate them on their merits. But I think there are going to be a number of players linked, and hopefully the fans can keep their powder dry, keep calm and carry on almost, because every player that's linked doesn't mean to say he's a world beater, or everyone you miss out on doesn't mean to say that it's a disaster. And it's been a misstep by the manager and by Neil Scotland. I think we give Rangers a bit of time to hopefully try and get the treble won first and foremost, and then we can see who's going to be part of the squad. The manager has mentioned it a couple of times in the last few weeks, certainly in regards to the out-of-contract guys. There will be movement on these guys. We're expecting a lot of the out-of-contract players to move on. We know there'll be interest in Yilmaz. We know there'll be interest in Jack Butland. So there's a lot of moving parts before Phil Clement has his squad for one, the first day of pre-season, but two, the first day of a new Premiership season. So hopefully we can, as you try and get this season done and dusted and won and successful first before we start getting too wound up on who's going to be staying and who's going to be going.
Yep, just a bit of info on Sanderson. He was on loan at Birmingham last season, signed permanently in the summer from Wolves. Came through the youth ranks at Molineux, had loan spells at Cardiff, Sunderland, Birmingham, QPR, and then, of course, signing permanently at the Blues. So they've had a pretty difficult season down there at St Andrews, but certainly is the name that has been linked with a move to Ibrox. But as Chris says, there will be many between, well, we've already had 3 this week already. Just on Rodriguez, Craig Moore has been speaking about him. He is a winger, 20 years old, plays for a club by the name of MacArthur down in the A-League Down Under. He says, I think he's a very interesting player. He's had a very good season at MacArthur Bulls, and this is a player that has been flagged up in a lot of clubs' data, their system in the UK. He's a player that I think could certainly play first-team football in Scotland in particular. You've got championship clubs down in England that are all sniffing about this player, such as the talent that he's showing. He's a left winger, a good size, very direct, Australian, Brazilian and Dutch backgrounds all mixed in there. So the boy is a decent talent. He will be moving in the summer. There is no doubt about that from MacArthur Bulls, where time will tell. So that is what Craig Moore had to say on Rafael Borges Rodriguez. I spoke to Joshua yesterday about not specifically the player, Chris, but the need for wingers to be brought in the summer. I want to see Oscar Cortez back at Rangers next season, whether that's a permanent deal or a loan. I've seen enough of him. I want to see more from him. Think Rangers need maybe 1 or 2 more in the wide areas?
I think 1 or 2 would be a starter for 10, and then probably another 1 or 2 on top of that. You look at also the SEMA situation is up in the air. It depends what fee Brighton are willing to accept for him. Cortez one still up in the air. Are we going to have to pay a fee? Is another loan on the cards? You've then got Scott Wright probably moving on. Matondo places up for debate. Silva will obviously go back. So there's a lot of players who have their futures very much up for debate right now, and who moves on will invariably shape who comes in, as well what happens over the next 3 weeks in terms of the transfer budget as well. If you have a Champions League check to look forward to, that can potentially impact on the business that you can then go and do. But you could easily, I was actually talking to someone about this at the start of the week, you could rhyme off 12 names that you can move on and then bring another 12 in. That would be that would represent a big overhaul in the space of one summer. But I think that's probably the terms of the actual numbers that people are looking at. They don't just want to see 1 or 2 or 1 or 2 signing and maybe a couple of loans. People, I think, are looking for a big overhaul, and certainly in terms of the final third. It seems bizarre that we're only 10 months on or so from the big overhaul and spending money on the forward areas and that the investment being front loaded. But Michael Beale built a squad that didn't have a lot of natural width in it. Come out as a manager who likes to have natural width, so straight away you know that particular dynamic is going to have to be addressed. That's before you then get into we need a number 9 or we need 2 number 9s, maybe even need 3 number 9s, and depending on Danilo, how he comes back from his injury as well. So I think that as I said earlier on, I'd like to see a centre half coming in. I think there's work to be done right through the entire spine of the side. You could easily be looking at a goalkeeper, a centre half, a central midfielder, and a number 9 for Rangers.
Exactly.
If that happens, you're like all of those players that come in have to be starters, have to be as good as possible, and you then try and obviously build around that. But certainly in the wide areas, there's huge room for improvement, because I don't think anyone apart from Sima has really nailed down a spot. Has had these injury problems in the second half of the season, which has been hugely frustrating and potentially hugely costly for Rangers. So I think a lot depends on how much, if you can get Sima back, how much is that going to cost, and that then trickles down into, well, you need another one on that side, probably 2 on the right hand side. McCausland can play off both. As I say, Matondo plays up for debate. Scott Wright moves on. Silva moves on. So there's a lot of moving parts here over the next couple of weeks, over the next couple of months. But it's a real opportunity for Clement and for Niels Coppen. Niels has come in at the turn of the year. A lot of faith being put in him and the football board set up. It's been made very, very clear by the chairman, by James Bisgrove, that Rangers' record in the transfer market has to significantly improve. They can't afford sporadic wins, I think, as the chairman called it. They need to get 95% of the deals that are done in the summer. 95% of them have to be spot on, have to be value for money, and have to be improvements on what's there. If this team and this squad is going to go into the next level.
Yep, lots of comments coming in off the back of that. Blazing Blue 72 says, I for one love all the speculation, always been an exciting part of being a Gers fan. Nothing beats when going back as a kid, when Rangers could just buy whoever they wanted. There was no transfer windows, and getting the butterflies in the stomach of seeing guys pitching up at Ibrox. You're like that. Wow, this is absolutely incredible. Gaza Laudrup, I remember when Kanchelskis signed, it was giddy. Ronald de Boer, when he signed, you're thinking, wow, what's going on here? But those days are long gone, but you still get a bit of excitement when Rangers are about to parade new signings, and when new signings jet in. One such player that could be departing in the summer is Sam Lammers. Socrates gets in touch. He says, why would we buy another striker? Big Sam Lammers back, scoring for fun with Utrecht and fresh from winning the Eredivisie Player of the Month award for April. Quite incredible. He's enjoying such success back in his native Holland. I think we discussed this. I was on with Johnny and when I was on with Adam yesterday for the Rangers Review Extra Q&A show. We discussed Sam Lammers. Adam said Philip Clement might bring him back for a pre-season just to have a look at him maybe in his preferred number 9 position, but we're all in agreement we don't see a Rangers future for him. Do you see him moving on, Chris? And if he keeps up this form, then it could start a bit of a bidding war perhaps in the summer.
It could be the best thing that Sam Lammers has ever done for us, going over to Holland and banging in the goals. For me, he's not got a future at Ibrox. I think we've seen enough in the first half of the season to suggest that he's not going to fit in at the club. Doing the business for Utrecht is very, very different than doing the business for Rangers. Completely different levels. Completely different levels of expectation and standards and demands and physical and mental in that regard. I just don't see how he's got a Rangers future. Even if the manager decided to bring him back for pre-season, I think it would just be a case of we'll give him a pre-season so he's fit, so he can then move on. I would be amazed if Clement thinks Sam Lammers is the man that I need to go and build my attack around next season. It's one that's clearly it's not worked out. No harm to him. He's clearly a good player at a certain level, in a certain league, in a certain side. None of those are Rangers. He's not suited for Rangers, not suited for the Scottish Premiership. And I think the fact that he has done so well, we were all thinking that when he goes out there, you'll need to take £1 million for him. You just need to take anything just to try and get rid of him. You're going to have a huge loss on him. Potentially now you might not lose that much, or if anything at all. So I think it'd be it's good that he has gone out there and he's clearly got his confidence back, which is nice to see, scoring goals. But I think it just proves how difficult it is to settle at Rangers, to make an impact at Rangers. I know Stephen's saying they're never playing his position, but how that being played at number 9 or being played at number 10, that doesn't stop you from being able to make a simple pass or spinning into trouble all the time, or decision making, or hiding in games. I think people are now looking at especially better second half of the season, so the mood amongst the fans is slightly better. They're seeing him doing well, but it's one of these cases of when players don't play for Rangers, they become better players. There is no way that Sam Lammers is fit to be a Rangers number 9 or a Rangers number 10 next season.
Denzel says maybe if he comes back for pre-season, he can pick up the gear he left behind. But listen, keep it up, Sam. It can only be good for Rangers. His valuation will no doubt increase the more that he's tearing up in the Eredivisie. And let's hope there's a few clubs that want to prize him away in the summertime. Right, let's look towards the game on Sunday then. Gary Hillhouse gets in touch. Let's talk match play, lad. How are we feeling for the game against Killie on Sunday? Derek McInnes has done a remarkable job at Kilmarnock, Chris. His teams are always well organised, well drilled. They'll make life difficult. Rangers were poor against St Mirren. They got the job done, but they are not good fun to watch at this moment in time. They're just sort of plundering along and hopefully just getting results heading into the game at Parkhead. It's all about the result in this game. It's win or bust. They all are at this moment in time. Are goals huge for this game? I can't see Rangers racking up 4 or 5 against Kilmarnock. I'd be happy just to take the victory and move on to Parkhead.
I think it's going to be a tricky game on Sunday. Killie, one of the great stories of the season. Derek McInnes, one of the great managerial successes of the season. If Clermont doesn't lift the treble or doesn't win the league, then for me, Derek McInnes is manager of the year. Unfortunately, I have to vote for the football writers beforehand, so I don't get to hold off and see when see what happens in terms of the title race and what happens in terms of the Scottish Cup. But you can't knock the job that Derek has done there, really taking Killie on, going from strength to strength, got some good players in that side, carry a lot of attacking threat, but carry that threat well being organised and well being hard to break down and all the things you expect from a Derek McInnes side. So I don't think this will be an easy one for Rangers. You're looking at the goal difference. You're looking at Rangers at some point will have to start trying to eat into that if possible. And didn't look like doing it against St Mirren last weekend. It was fairly bang average stuff for long spells of it. It will have to be better again. If you think of Ross County being ground zero almost, and then the manager was pleased with Dundee. I know a lot of people weren't. The manager was happier with the performance against Dundee, stepping it up against Hearts. St Mirren, I think, was fairly poor. So I think it's at some point Rangers do have to start thinking about the goal difference, but I don't see Sunday being the type of game where you can rock up thinking we can go and take 4 or 5 off Killie. If you start well and you don't concede chances in the first minute, which would be smashing for Rangers, if they can start well and score early on, maybe get a second one, that probably wins you the game. If you're 2-0 up after 25 minutes or so, then you can maybe start thinking, right, there's a real chance here. But how many times over the course of the season have Rangers looked like going into a game starting with that mindset and then blowing sides away? It's just not happened often enough. What's the Hearts at Ibrox was a great one. Ross County at Ibrox was it 24 shots on goal? It was a remarkable number of shots on goal. They had other shots on target that night. It's not really happened since. They've not looked like scoring a number of goals over the last few weeks. So for me, most important thing is 3 points, and then what will be next week.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. In terms of the team, then we will hear from Philip Clermont this afternoon. Just round about 1:30, folks. We'll get an injury update on who is available, who isn't. He did say last week that Ridvan and Ryan Jack would be back in training. Whether they're part of the squad, who knows? That aside, from the team that started at St Mirren, I'm just trying to think. Backline, if Ridvan's not available, I would just keep it as is. Midfield will be Diamandi and Lundstrom, you would imagine, with Cantwell in front of those two. I'd imagine Fabio Silva will retain his place. Again, he's not doing enough for me to earn that starting berth, but I can see him starting on Sunday. Cyril Dessers will lead the line. On the right-hand side, do you bring in Ross McCausland, perhaps, or Dujon Sterling? Does he keep his place there? Do you move him around? What do you do? Do you make changes from last Sunday, Chris, do you think?
I think a lot depends on the injury update that the manager gives later on. If Ridvan is back and is fit to play, I think that would be a big boost. If Matondo was back and able to play, even just in the squad, I think that would be helpful. Like you, Derek, I don't think Silva has done enough. I thought he was way off it again last Sunday. Hasn't been at it for a long time now, and he's just not for a guy of his reputation. Even if you take away the transfer fee, which was clearly inflated, if you take it out of the equation, for someone of his reputation, the club that he played for, the youth system that he's come through, he's clearly got a quality. But the last few weeks, it's just not happened for him. And that's where you really see not having Seaman, not having Matondo last week as well. It's just leaving Rangers really short. So personally, I would go Sterling and McCausland in the wide areas. I just don't think Silva has done enough to give us enough and to merit a start. Lundstrom, Diamandi, as you see, as the midfield two. Cantwell plays as 10. Dessers plays as 9. and the rest of it probably picks itself apart from the left back position. So I think it'll be interesting. You would like to see going forward. I would like to see Sterling and Diomande as a midfield too, but I just don't see I don't see the manager changing it up that much at this stage. I think that partnership, Lundstrom, Diomande, I think we'll see that between now and the end of the season.
Yeah, Stephen raises the point, says Silva shouldn't be near the first team. Hopefully Danilo won't be far away from getting some minutes. Well, he's got the boots back on. He's out on the grass, but whether we'll see him, the manager did say he and Oscar Cortez should be back for the final week, which should be Scottish Cup final week. So I would be surprised if we see either of them before then. And just on Sterling and Lundstrom, Tom with the point says Sterling in midfield for Lundstrom. Seen obviously this week there's been a bit of noise and of course the last couple of weeks regarding Lundstrom's future. Borna will be leaving to join Trabzonspor, and reports in Turkey suggest that John Lundstrom has agreed to join them over there. Chris, if he is departing and he knows he is leaving, is there an argument to say bring them both out of the team and play players that are going to form part of the squad next season?
I think that's a big call for the manager to make. I think it was ahead of the Hearts game or a week before he was asked about it.
So, yeah.
I think it was ahead of the Hearts game. He was asked in the Sunday newspaper press conference about, do you have any fear playing players who may have their minds elsewhere, or you've already decided that I'm going to be part of the plans. He spoke about that and said no, he trusts these guys to be professional. I think it's going to be a topic that comes up quite a lot amongst the fans over the next couple of days, heading into the Killie game, and then certainly heading into the Old Firm game. I think there's probably no ideal perfect answer in this one, because if you look at the way the manager has shaped the side up over the last few months, Lundstrom is also such a huge part of that, and I would be surprised if we get to 5 before the end and the manager then suddenly takes him out. I think he would back Lundstrom to be professional enough to get through it. He would back Barisic to be professional enough to get through, as he would Ryan Jack if he comes back. I think it's clear that his time's potentially coming to an end as well. Same for Kamar Roof, same for a number of guys, even guys who are under contract could be moving on. If you are in that position and you think this could be your final month at Rangers, surely you want to end it in the best way possible. And what a legacy to leave behind if you can go and win the league, a league that no one thought was possible of winning back in October. Go and win the league and then top it off by beating Celtic in a Scottish Cup final to win the treble. I mean, if that doesn't motivate you to try and finish your Rangers career in the most positive way possible, then I've not really got any words for it. I don't really have any conversation for you, because that should just be the stuff of dreams. It's certainly for guys who have been through as many highs and lows as John Lundstrom has. Now, what a way to leave. If you can be a treble winner and the guy that scored the goal that got Rangers to Seville, for all the downsides and for all the negative performances, that's quite that's two huge achievements to have on your CV. Same for Barisic. If you could do it, having played in so many highs and lows and won 55, these opportunities don't come around for players so every so often. They're very, very fortunate to be in this position when they have the chance to go and win the league and then beat Celtic in the cup final to win the treble. So I would hope that they are professional enough and they see the advantage, they see what they could leave behind. But I'm sure if the manager thinks that anyone is dropping their standards or is looking to down tools and just coast through these next few weeks, he doesn't. Now, from what we've seen of him and we've heard from him, it doesn't look the type of guy that's going to stand for it. If he thinks that you're dropping off and you've chucked it, he won't be. I'm sure he won't be slow in either pulling you up for it to get you back on and get you back up to standard, or he'll just take you out the side. There's no chance that he's going to play players, given what's at stake for him as well. He's not going to put a team on the park that he doesn't have full faith and full confidence and full belief in.
Yeah, the concern for me is it looks like the team are coasting at this moment in time. And Dujon Sterling's recent comments after that Dundee game sent a gave off alarm bells with him saying that they were playing it like a dead rubber, which is not what you want to hear at this stage of the season. Stuart with the point, it says, personally, I think Clement needs to wake up and stop playing a weak midfield. Lunny and Sterling with Diamandi and Cantwell if Matondo fit up front through the middle and actually play with pace. So that is what he feels about it ahead of Sunday, which is must win. As we touched on earlier on, we'll hear from the manager a little later on. So keep your eyes peeled on the YouTube channel and on the website for that. We'll wrap up with this. Gaz Jones gets in touch. Can't believe it's 2 years already. He says 2 years ago we lost a key part of our club in Jimmy Bell, sadly missed by all. Absolutely, Gaz. A legend of Rangers Football Club, and he is sadly missed each and every day. Right, we'll be back a little later on. For those of you that are Rangers Review Extra members, we'll give our comments on what the manager will say later on this afternoon. So hopefully you can join us for that. We'll have all the usual coverage on Sunday. Myself and Chris will be covering that game for you. So plenty to come your way, not only today, but over the weekend as well. Thank you for your interaction as ever. Big thanks to Chris as well. And I'll speak to you a little later on. Bye for now.